Have you ever been home alone and heard a sound so strange, so out of place, that every instinct you have screamed you weren't truly by yourself? We tell ourselves it's just the house settling, the wind, or an overactive imagination. But what if it isn't? Tonight we're sharing stories from people who wished they'd listened to that instinct. These are first-person accounts, told just as they were experienced. Think of them as modern folklore, leaving you to decide what you believe. We'll also touch upon the science behind these phenomena, because sometimes the line between a haunting and a trick of the mind is razor thin. From a family stalked by a shadow for generations to disembodied voices that seem to come from nowhere, these are the encounters that make you wonder. So, turn down the lights and try to convince yourself it's only a story. Before we descend into the darkness, if you have a story of your own or just love exploring the unexplained, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You wouldn't want to be left alone for our next investigation, would you? The Scent of Old Smoke. My name is John, and this story is about my house. It's a rambling two-story farmhouse in the rolling hills of rural Pennsylvania. For my wife Sarah, our 2 kids, and me, this house was more than a home. It was a legacy. My great-grandfather built it in the late 1800s. It's a place with character, creaking floorboards, odd angles, and a history that seeps from its very walls. But I soon learned that some history doesn't stay in the past. It all began with a smell, a distinct, pleasant aroma of sweet pipe tobacco. My great-grandfather, the man who built the house, was an avid pipe smoker. We even had his old pipe on the mantel. At first, the scent was fleeting, just a faint wisp in the upstairs hallway. We'd search for a source, but with the nearest house over a mile away, it was impossible. It was strange, but not frightening. Sarah even said it felt comforting, like a greeting from the past. Soon the sounds began, the soft, heavy tread of footsteps on the main staircase, always when we were all together downstairs. We'd pause, listening, only for the steps to stop on the landing above. Being a practical man, I'd go check, thinking one of the kids had woken up, but they were always fast asleep. I checked everything, the attic, the windows, the floorboards, trying to find a rational explanation. I blamed the house's old bones, and I wasn't necessarily wrong. Old houses make noise. Sometimes unseen presences are really just drafts, or even low-frequency sounds called infrasound. It's like the deep rumble of a passing truck that you feel in your chest more than you hear, a vibration that can create a powerful sense of unease without you knowing why. But things started to escalate. Toys in the kids' rooms would be moved. A ball left in the centre of the floor would be found in a corner. My 6-year-old Emily started talking about a man she called the Tall Grandfather. She said he was a quiet man who would sometimes stand in the corner of her room at night and watch her sleep. She wasn't scared of him. She said he just felt sad. The moment it all curdled into real fear happened one cold October evening. We were watching a movie when the potent smell of pipe tobacco suddenly filled the room, as if someone had just lit a pipe right beside us. At that exact moment, my 4-year-old son, Josh, pointed a trembling finger toward the archway to the dining room. "Who's that man?" he whispered. Sarah and I turned. Standing in the deep shadows of the archway was a figure. It was tall and unnervingly thin, a silhouette of a man darker than the shadows around him. I couldn't make out a face or clothes. It was like a hole in the shape of a person had been cut out of reality. It didn't move. It just stood there, watching us. My heart hammered against my ribs. I stood up, putting myself between it and my family. "Who are you? What do you want?" The figure remained motionless. Then it seemed to just recede, dissolving back into the shadows until nothing was there. The room was suddenly cold, and the smell of tobacco was gone. After that, I started looking through old family journals. I learned my great-grandfather hadn't just been a pipe smoker, he had been a man destroyed by grief. His wife had died in childbirth in what was now Emily's bedroom. He spent the rest of his life in a deep depression, often wandering the house at night. We still live here. In a strange way, the presence feels like a part of our heritage. The sightings are rare now, but the phantom smell of pipe tobacco still drifts through the halls, a solemn reminder of the history that walks beside us, ensuring we are never, ever truly alone. The Clicking Man. My name is Maya. I was 26 and so proud of my new apartment. It was a small one-bedroom in a converted warehouse, my first real place on my own. For the first few weeks, it was perfect. Then the nights began to change. It started with sleep paralysis. I'm a rational person, so I knew what it was. It's a glitch in your sleep cycle where your mind wakes up, but your body is still fast asleep. It's like being a prisoner in your own body, fully aware but unable to move a muscle. The first time it happened, I woke up staring at the ceiling and a wave of pure panic hit me as I realized I was completely frozen. It felt like a crushing weight was on my chest. In the corner of my room, I felt a presence, not something I saw clearly, but an undeniable feeling, a tall, dark, menacing shape. This is a common hallucination with sleep paralysis, often called a shadow person. I knew this. When I could finally move again, I told myself it was just my brain misfiring, terrifying but explainable. But it kept happening. Each time, the same suffocating paralysis, the same heavy weight, and the same dark figure in the corner, watching. The scientific explanation was a cold comfort when the fear felt so absolutely real. Then a new element appeared, a sound. During one episode, as I lay pinned to my bed, I heard a faint, dry, rhythmic clicking. It sounded almost like an insect, totally unnatural. It seemed to come from the corner where the shadow stood. At first, I thought it was just another part of the hallucination, but then I started hearing it when I was wide awake. A faint click, click, click from the bedroom. It was always quiet, and it would stop the moment I went to investigate. I started to question my sanity. Was I so stressed that I was now having auditory hallucinations? The breaking point came when my best friend, Chloe, stayed over. I hadn't told her anything. Around 3 a.m., I was jolted awake by a scream from the living room. It was Chloe. I rushed out to find her sitting bolt upright on the couch, her face pale, staring at the corner. "What is it?" I asked, my heart pounding. Chloe just pointed a shaking finger. The clicking," she stammered. I heard a clicking sound, and it woke me up. A cold dread washed over me. "What did you see?" I whispered. Her voice was barely audible. "I saw a man. No, a shape. Really tall, all black. He was just standing there in the corner, and he was clicking." Hearing my own secret terror described perfectly by someone else was the most horrifying validation I could imagine. For me, that shattered every rational explanation I was clinging to. It wasn't just in my head, it was real. We sat with all the lights on until sunrise. The next day, I started packing. I broke my lease, not caring about the deposit. I never experienced the paralysis or heard the clicking again. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that apartment. I wonder who lives there now, and if they too lie awake in the dark, listening for the sound of the clicking man. The whisper in the closet. My name is Anna, and I've been a social worker for nearly a decade. I deal in facts and case files, not fantasies. So when I was assigned the case of 7-year-old Leo, I was methodical. The school had reported he'd become withdrawn and anxious, fixated on his closet. He refused to sleep in his room, claiming there was a man in the closet. My mind went to the usual places, an overactive imagination, or worse, the man being a code for a real person who was harming him. When I visited the small apartment, I met Leo's mother, Clara, who was clearly exhausted. Leo was a small boy with large, fearful eyes. I talked with him gently. When I asked about his room, he tensed. "I don't like my room," he said quietly. "Why not?" "Because of the man." "The man in the closet?" Leo nodded, tears welling in his eyes. He watches me, and he whispers. "What does he whisper, Leo?" His voice dropped to a terrified whisper of his own. "He says my name." I inspected the bedroom. It was a normal kid's room. The closet was unremarkable. I left that first visit convinced Leo needed therapy, not a paranormal investigation. It was on my third visit that the unthinkable happened. I was in Leo's room with him, trying some play therapy, while his mum was in the kitchen. The closet door was shut. As I knelt beside Leo's bed, I heard a faint sound, a slow, deliberate creak. I looked up. The closet door was swinging open, inch by agonizing inch. My rational mind scrambled for an explanation. A draft, an unlevel floor. The air was perfectly still. Leo was silent, his face buried in his pillow. I stood up, my professional composure battling a rising tide of fear. I had to show him there was nothing to be afraid of. I walked slowly towards the closet, my heart hammering. "See, Leo?" I said, my voice strained. "It's just an old door. We'll just shut it." I reached for the doorknob. As my fingers brushed the cold metal, a voice came from the darkness within. It was a whisper, a low, guttural, and distinctly malevolent sound. This wasn't my brain trying to find patterns in random noise, the way you sometimes see faces in clouds. No, this was a voice, and it scraped the air itself as it whispered a single word: Leo. It wasn't his voice. It wasn't his mother's. It was a voice that had no business being there. I froze. Every rational thought evaporated, replaced by an ice-cold certainty. We were not alone. I snatched my hand back, scooped the weeping child into my arms, and fled the room, slamming the door shut. I found Clara in the kitchen, oblivious, asking if we wanted a snack. My official involvement ended there. I recommended full safety checks and urgent psychological evaluations, but in my own mind, I am certain that what I heard wasn't a delusion or a trick of acoustics. I left that apartment with the chilling fear that the system I worked for, a system built on logic, had no protocol for the kind of darkness I heard whisper from Leo's closet. So where does that leave us? We've heard from a man whose family legacy includes a sorrowful, shadowy observer. We've felt the terror of a woman whose apartment was haunted by a presence that clicks in the dark. And we've stood at the threshold of a child's closet with a social worker who heard a whisper that defies explanation. These accounts tap into a primal human fear, the fear of the unknown invading our safest spaces. Science can offer plausible explanations: low-frequency infrasound that causes unease, the waking nightmare of sleep paralysis, even something as simple as carbon monoxide poisoning, a silent intruder that can cause hallucinations and a profound sense of dread. And these possibilities are crucial to consider. If you experience strange things, please ensure your carbon monoxide detectors are working and have your home checked. But for those who have lived these moments, the experience remains profoundly real. They carry that memory long after the moment has passed. The world is full of unexplained noises and fleeting shadows. Most of the time they're nothing, but after hearing these stories, the next time you're alone in the quiet, you might find yourself listening a little more closely, and you might not like what you hear. If these stories sent a chill down your spine, let us know in the comments which one you found the most terrifying. Don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, try to sleep well and maybe leave a light on.